Hello and welcome to our 8th episode of Hungry Talks. I'm your host, Alana.
I'm your other host, Bella. And first of all, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the people of the Wurrung and Burrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges ancestors and elders past and present and the traditional custodians of the land and waters across Australia.
Now we're in for a magical episode tonight. Ever wondered what else you can do with advertising skills, but think an agency role isn't totally for you? Our guest tonight doesn't have your everyday desk job. He has over 20 years of experience as a senior designer, art and creative director in organisations such as the BBC and the AFL. And now he's ventured into the dream job of head of creative and production for Walt Disney Melbourne. It's with great excitement that we introduce Andrew Hutchison. Hutch, thank you for being here tonight.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Very excited to be able to have a chat to you guys and talk a little bit about what I do and where I've come from. So appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And now I think we'll jump right into it, where I'm going to say we're all curious to know, what was your career journey and how has it led you into your current position?
That's a good question. I guess, a lot of us might be very similar, in the way they've kind of gone about things, but I've always been a very creative. I think I'm a creative person. So, drawing a lot when I was a child, I'd always be sort of sketching away on something. Love sport as well. So I'll talk about sport a little bit as I go through, but whenever there was sport on television, I'd be, if there was the Australian Open on, I'd be, drawing really bad tennis tops and designs on those. I'd be, sketching sneaker designs for Nike, and that was always, fun. And I just love to kind of be creative. And as a youngster, my dad was a professional punter and a bookmaker, so he had this amazing office that he had full of stationery and pens and all sorts of, photocopier he had. And I used to sort of sneak in there and steal stuff out of the stationery cabinet. And when he wasn't in his office, I'd be doing, weird ass photocopier experiments, when I could. And that was something that I loved and something that I love to do. And, going through school, secondary and primary school, art was always the class I wanted to be in. I kind of, even at, lunchtimes, at the end of a lunchtime, and I knew art class was, straight after lunch, I'd get there even before the bell had ended. And, I'd want to get there before the class started so I could be first into the art room, to be, first in to maximize my time, in the art class. So a little different from probably, going to a maths class or something. It probably wasn't, maths is okay, but it probably was where I wanted to be, was in the art room. And then, through secondary school as well, we had elective, we had, I think it was graphic communication or something like that you could do. So the opportunity to step into that was awesome. And I think it was year 9, I had a mate that we were just hanging out, and for some reason we were in the car and with his mum, and she said she had to drop in to pick up something from my mate's father. And we jumped in to his building and went upstairs, and his office blew my mind. He was something called a commercial artist back then, I believe, and it was basically a graphic designer / advertising agency. So, it was a bit of a hybrid model, and I could see that he did lots of different things, and just being in there, I don't think I realized before this that you could be a creative in industry and do the things that I love doing, and actually make a career out of it. And so once I saw that, it was like, well, that's for me. That's what I want to do. I'll pretty much change any sort of subjects to align to that, to get a career out of it. And I started really focusing in on that and trying to get a folio together at the end of year 12. My school is, it was very academic, I guess, and the art area was still encouraged, but it was also about getting a good VCE score back then. It feels like 100 years ago when I say that. But yeah, basically came out and had a pretty good folio, and got got a few B letters into various universities, and eventually got into RMIT Art and Design, which is more of a folio building kind of year for me to kind of polish up my work and get it to a half decent level. And after that, toward the end of that first year of RMIT, I thought I want to go to a decent university that I think that would befit some of the skills that I want to kind of gain. And the two unis were, it was Monash University for a Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design, and then the second course was your course, actually. So RMIT Advertising was the course, and I got into both, which was great because I didn't have another option if I didn't get into those. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then, got into both and had the choice. I think I like the look of Monash Uni just because it had a bit more variety in the types of areas that I'd be interested in, even though advertising looked amazing too. So I mean, I chose Monash, and that course was awesome. I got a lot out of that, and toward the end of it, I started realizing I naturally loved publication design, and straight out of uni, I started exploring areas there, and was lucky enough to become art director at a magazine called Inside Football Magazine, which, as I sort of already talked on, sport is such a huge thing, in my life as well. So, being able to work on a couple of passions, design and sport, and being an art director straight out of on a magazine straight out of university was pretty cool to get that. I was there for a couple of years, and then I got an opportunity, a tap on the shoulder to say, do you want to apply to be the lead designer across all the Olympic Games publications for the 2000 Olympics? So I went across to News Limited to work on that, and that was awesome as well. I got to lead a team, relatively soon out of university, and had a team sort of working with me across all of the Torch Relay mag, and book, Paralympics, Olympic Games, themselves as well. I worked on the Olympic Games book, and art directed and led that, creative, which was terrific. And then, toward the end of it, it was going really well, and I was starting to work on some other publications like the Grand Prix program and various things like that. And my partner decided that she wanted to go to London, and I'm like, hang on, I've got a pretty good job here. I'm pretty comfortable here, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. But she's like, no, I'm going. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're going. So we decided we were going. We packed up and headed to London, and no one really knew me there, so I had to almost cut my own path, and lucky enough to get a job at the BBC, working on various things there. And then Sunday Times Travel magazine opportunity came up, their launch issue for their mag, and that was based in Leicester Square, right in the heart of London. And did that for a couple of years, and London was amazing. Unfortunately, we had to come back just due to some family things, and I came back and had some connection back into some of the previous guys I'd worked with at a company called the Slattery Media Group. The two art directors there wanted me to work there, so I started pretty much as soon as I got off the plane from London, and they had the AFL contract, which was great. So we got to work across a lot of the AFL material, and lots of books, and lots of campaign work as well. The art directors basically left after a couple of months to start their own business. So I became creative director there relatively quickly, and had a team under me there, and grew into that role for 9 years. And then the AFL decided they wanted to purchase, take back their contract with with that organisation and a bunch of organisations to form what is called AFL Media. And AFL Media basically was the AFL managing all their everything, pretty much, photography, all their creative, their video, their web design, as well as the content with journalists. So this really amazing opportunity to join, kind of a bunch of media-related people and creatives and video people and photographers to kick off AFL Media. So I worked there for 9 years, which was amazing. I loved it. I loved my team. The team just kept getting bigger and bigger. I think, at the height of it with freelancers, it probably would have been up to maybe 20, 23, 24 people maybe in the team with freelancers. But, the core sort of team up around sort of, high 18s to 20 sort of thing. And that involved, I had a photography team with me. I had, art director. I had photo editors. I had designers. And web designers, all sorts of creatives that were in my team, and that was fantastic. And as I said, I love sports, and I love footy, so that it worked out great. And then after that, kind of 18 years, I guess, of being across sport and working, for the AFL essentially, as you can imagine, it's probably a bit of time. I started thinking, well, what's next? And it's, being in your comfort zone, I guess, for a little bit of time, you start thinking, well, what could I do? And I saw the head of creative and production at Walt Disney Company come through as a job that's just come through in any other way a normal job would be. So I looked at that and thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to get this, but it looks amazing. So I applied for that and, have been lucky enough to get it. And I've been with the business for about 14 months and have been steadily building the team, to run their in-house video and creative team. So that's a very long answer to a very short question, and I definitely have run over time. So, but thank you for humouring me on letting me take you through it.
No, that's brilliant. Such an exciting career journey, really. And it's great that you've been able to combine your passions, for sport and Disney, and be able to incorporate that into your creative direction career. So what exactly does the head of creative and production at Walt Disney do? Like, what does your role entail?
Oh, we do a lot, which is great. I mean, I'm sure everyone's pretty well aware of what this Disney stable of brands looks like, but, obviously with so many great beloved brands, internationally with, Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, ESPN, Nat Geo, obviously Disney Plus as a streaming service is something that is quite significant. We're across most of the local, pretty much all of the local creative, and sort of taking, even looking at international releases and being able to support those locally with how they get released at cinema, but also how they get released on Disney Plus, activations around that as well, premieres. We do. I've touched on Disney Plus a lot, and I will a lot as I go through, and that has been a real focus for my team. Since I've begun, being able to look at what some of that content is on platform and promoting that to an audience to kind of keep growing our audience and getting people to see what we've got to offer, which is so strong. Really key. Titles that have got, that are great examples of great storytelling, and the brands that we've got, we get to take those, but also, apply a local lens to them. Our leader, she's got a local and loved philosophy. So it's, it's taking those loved characters that, that we know and love, and then putting a local lens across them so that they, they feel naturally connected in with our Australian and New Zealand audience. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we do, like it's, spots, ads, social posts, as I said, kind of out of home, I haven't said, but I will, out of home, campaigns for various, as I said, titles, but there's mini campaigns maybe for Disney Plus, for an example. We just did a recent one for Crime Time, so promoting all the crime series on there. We're just about to do one for animation and all the great animation sitting on the platform as well. So, you get a bit of an idea there, but, it's sort of scratching the surface really with what we do. The Marvel Stadium's a really good one as well. We obviously have naming rights for Marvel Stadium, so we get to do quite a bit of work looking at that as well. So a lot of diverse work. And ESPN, is a good example coming back to sport, another opportunity there to do sport-related work. So it's not just the traditional brands that you might expect from Disney as well.
Sounds pretty full on though. But I have to admit, working for Walt Disney isn't exactly an average day job. What do you think is probably like the most unconventional part of it all?
Unconventional. I mean, it's conventional in that my team is set up where it's, a team of designers, producer editors, an editor, production manager. We've actually got an experienced designer. That's probably a little different than what you might expect. So someone with an Imagineering background, which is amazing with, kind of looking at spaces and experiences for customers and people. I guess you talk about what's unconventional. I mean, it's a bit unconventional for me that, we are engaging with our counterparts and a lot of people in the US and around the world regularly. And, being from the AFL, it would really just be the people in the building and sometimes some clubs and those sort of stakeholders. But I guess it's the collaboration in such a broad international sense, which is, probably something that you might expect from Disney, but not something that has been traditionally what I've been, had to do. And I think that's great. We're directly, working with the people that are either creating the content or, thinking about how we promote the content globally.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've always kind of wondered how the Melbourne office is connected to the rest of the world, and especially those headquarters in America. So what was it like going from more typical creative direction jobs to head of creative and production? Like, were there extra skills that you needed to develop to make that transition?
I don't know if I had extra skills, but there is a natural, knowledge that I've kind of got. I think from understanding sport really well, and I sort of what a fan wants, but it's sort of the same thing coming across to Disney. I am a fan of the brands and the content that sits with under all the Disney brands. So I think it was just trying to understand how to promote to that audience. And it's the same thing as the AFL, to be honest. That's probably a similar thing where, people are passionate about the brands and the characters and have a real connection back, to the audience. So, to the character. Yeah, the audience has a connection back to the characters, which is, I think it's the same thing with sport and football. There's connection back to your team and passion for your team. It's the same sort of thing, but it's a bit of a new language, understanding the streaming landscape, understanding a little bit more about the business of, entertainment on a bit of a broader level, I would say, compared to the AFL. The diversity of brands and understanding the nuances of the brands is kind of interesting, that it's a different audience that it would be from maybe from a Pixar person to a Marvel person, trying to understand a bit more about that. And I think the way I've been able to navigate that is by asking loads of questions and not, when people say that anything's not a dumb question, like I've asked a lot of dumb questions, and I'm sure people were on a Zoom catch up thinking, what is this guy on about? And surely he knows more than this. But I think it's really good to ask those questions to be able to understand as soon as possible what you need to know. I think, listening to people a lot, but, even with a new team, I started during COVID. I haven't really been in the office with my team very often. I think it's probably, maybe 10, something like that, 10 to 12 days that I've actually spent in the office. So that was also a little bit of, took a bit of work to, to kind of lead through Zoom remotely and to coach and listen in that way and create authenticity in relationships. I think that takes a bit of work, particularly when you haven't got that, kind of in-person connection. So there's a few things that have been, needed to make that transition back to the skills, but essentially there's a lot of similarities, great ideas. You need that across everything you do. I think that they both share a love of storytelling, the kind of two organizations that I've worked for. So I've been able to bring that across as well and hopefully make some meaningful connection to audiences.
Amazing. Well, speaking of transitions, we want to know what differences did you find working internationally when you're in London for the BBC and the River Group compared to when you're working here in Melbourne?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're both Melbourne and London. I'm sure people on this couch have spent some time in London, but I really felt they're both very creative cities. And first arriving in London, I felt that kind of a bit at home, to be honest. And I actually would have loved to have spent a little bit more time there. Like even it was a couple of years, but it would have been great to be there a little longer. But I really think it's similar in that they're both so creative, but it was a different type of creative city. I hadn't spent any time in London before, so stepping off the plane and kind of just really immersing yourself in that creative environment where creativity is so highly valued and it's everywhere. There's the portrait gallery, there's the Tate, going to the Tate Modern and stepping in there and just feeling so inspired. It was very inspiring to be there on any given day, and I think we all love inspiration that comes to us from different sources, and this was so much inspiration on, kind of on steroids, to be honest. Like everywhere you went, it felt like there was creativity. And that was one thing I noticed, particularly when I got there, and, highly valued creativity, I think, in terms of the jobs that I had as well. There's a sort of similarity with sense of humor as well. I probably noticed through, TV spots, ads over there and even promos over there as well. There's a real strong sense of humor, which is a bit similar to an Aussie sense of humor where they do take the piss out of themselves and out of others, which I really love. I think that, having a bit of a laugh and not taking everything so seriously is probably, the way I like to play things. And Aussies and Brits are a bit similar in that way in their approach. So I think that was something, there was a lot of differences, but a lot of similarities. And I would recommend, going abroad and, applying your craft over there, if you can, because it just opens you up to thinking about, things differently and challenging yourself to not, be in a situation that familiar to you. It's kind of nice to kind of put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think being in an unfamiliar place would be a huge source of inspiration. I think we're all craving that a little bit right now. Thank you for answering those questions. Your career path is very inspiring. Next up, we asked Hutch to bring in a campaign worthy of hanging up on the fridge. This is Fridge Worthy.
What's this?
Dude, it's Star on Disney Plus. It's got everything. The Martian, all the diehards, Pretty Woman.
Oh, I love Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
Any zombie movies?
Nah, but it's got heaps of new stuff, like Big Sky, Love Victor.
Wait up. Are you telling me there's no zombie movies? They've catered for monsters, witches, aliens. They've got Borat, Bob's Burgers, The Killing, The Sixth Sense,
Ooh.
The Proposal. It's even got Army Wives, Trophy Wife, Desperate Housewives.
Any zombie wives?
Excuse me, that's mine.
Sorry.
My fellow zombies, are we going to stand for Star to have hundreds of series and movies and completely ignore us zombies? It's just blatant.
Oh, hang on. My bad. They got 28 days later. Oh, and 28 weeks later.
With hundreds more titles, plus more parental controls, now there's something for all of us with Star on Disney+.
So, movie night?
Yeah.
I love that ad, I have to admit it. I think it's pretty funny. Could you kind of walk us quickly a little bit? How did that idea kind of come to life?
Yeah, so it was a special group idea, and I think that, zombies seem to be a really good vehicle to kind of, change up exactly what you might expect from a streaming service ad. I think that they threw a lot of humor in there and kind of, there's a couple of visual gags in there with the guy, his finger coming off and things like that. So yeah, they pitched a few concepts. This one sort of resonated most with us and seemed to, have the cut through that we were sort of looking for. So, once they sort of, we aligned on that being the concept, it was relatively straightforward, actually. Like it was sort of, trying to work them on trying to get the right titles in that get mentioned. And you can see there's a list of titles through there. So we're really wanting to, show people the great content that's sitting on platform as well as having a really great narrative. So it probably works on a couple of fronts. So I think that's been, that's a really great executional part of it. The shoot itself was in Sydney over a number of days. working with that crew was awesome. I think they, really talented people. So, all the way through that we were consulted on every aspect, and I think the proof was in the pudding that it's quite a nice spot. I think that people even talk to me about it, even now, which is really great. When I talk about what Star is, and there's a bit of quite a bit of attribution that Star is on Disney Plus, which is what we want.
Thank you for that, Hutch. I think it's such a cool, unique campaign, and it definitely keeps the classic kind of Disney clean image with also introducing the more adult content as well.
And hopefully not too terrifying. I think that was the kind of plan as well, wanting to make sure it was able to run in all time slots. So I think that was really important too.
Amazing. Well, up next, we're going to take a little bit of a look at how Disney branding has left cinema and entered the real world. This is called Disney Beyond the Big Screen. So the Walt Disney Company has been around for almost 100 years, starting with the humble mouse. The brand has managed to become probably one of the most iconic and loved franchises in the world. There is no doubt that the brand building associated with the mouse ears, castle, and classic audio voiceover of the Blu-ray DVD Fast Play has been a result of years of innovation in the arts and beyond. Now we're going to take a look at some of the most iconic Disney franchising beyond the film, looking at the most magical place on earth, Disneyland, California.
50 years ago, we dedicated a place to all the castle gazers and elephant pilots, to all princesses in training and unofficial mouseketeers, to all the parents who remember and all the kids who are just finding out.
Come to this happy place. Welcome.
Join us now for a celebration big enough to hold 50 years of magic. Walt Disney World.
So in 1995, Disneyland California opened and Disney officially stepped out of the picture theatre and into the real world. The Disneyland California travel campaigns included the slogan, "Where dreams come true," a now iconic phrase in every Disney fan's vocabulary. Disneyland changed the way people interacted with the company, with some even making it their life mission to go to every Disneyland in the world. And for others, even making it their dream proposal destination. It's pretty rare to see a brand this deeply ingrained in people's lives and goals. Hutch, how important and significant is immersive branding such as this?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, we don't do a lot with, in parks. We don't have a park here, unfortunately, but I think immersive branding is, it's vital to Disney and kind of the brands that sit with it. I think you're finding that a lot of the brands like Star Wars, there's more and more activity coming into the parks with those brands. So, Galaxy's Edge has just come into Walt Disneyland. So that one is probably, a new addition. And I think the relationships that people have, on screen, but then they can physically have a relationship with those characters, in person. Those immersive experiences, they're unforgettable. Those multi-sensory experiences that people take into those environments, they're things that you remember forever and that you take with them. And that nostalgic feeling that, you have, and you can recall that and talk about that, rather than it just being at that, the screen that's in front of you, which is great, but, that next level of making that a physical engagement that you might have with the character and the brand, I think is, second to none. I think it's brilliant. And, I don't know how many people have been to any of the parks, but there's a great, feeling that you get, and you look back fondly with that experience. And I think that I was sort of saying this earlier, every parks experience has a story behind it in the same way as a film would have, a story behind it. So you step into a ride and, there's a story there. You're in the line and there's the beginning of the story there. You go on to the actual ride and it, that's the climax of the story. And then as you exit the ride, there's also, kind of the conclusion of the story as well. So, that's also part of it as well. And that storytelling permeates everything that Disney does. But yeah, that set experience that comes back to that immersive branding is, it's awesome, and it really provides that real connection back to the characters.
Yeah, definitely. It's incredible. Like, I'm going back to when I've seen like Disney on Ice and stuff, and just the connection you get with these these characters who've come to life. It's insane.
100%,
But nowadays,
yeah.
nowadays the Walt Disney Company, as you mentioned before, has expanded massively with the Disneyland characters and cruise and Disney on Ice and all these pop-ups. How does one adapt characters and stories across so many different platforms, branding, and media? Like, what do you have any experience in that? Do you work in that at all?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like we don't, I mean, we do it a little bit in terms of some activation things. So, as I said, we don't have a park here. But I think it's just trying to be authentic to the character and the brand and, having strong guidelines, but also the right voice and tone of voice for exactly, what that character would be doing in that environment. I think that comes back to making it, have some authenticity in what that, kind of that character stands for. Like, if it's an honesty, you want to make sure there's an honesty in no matter where that character is represented. So, I know there's a lot of thought that goes behind that when we do put physical, kind of ways of bringing a character into an environment. So I think that's the critical thing. I mean, I think, that will also add to the consistency that you're getting across everything. So I think consistency is really important to be able to bring those characters to life across those multiple platforms that you're talking about.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of another platform that Disney has introduced, in 2019, Disney acquired 21st Century Fox Entertainment and cable television groups, obviously with the exception of the broadcast television, news and sports. And not too soon after, Disney launched their very own streaming service, Disney Plus, as you've spoken about. Now, Hutch, we want to know, how has Disney moved into the world of digital media but continued to stay relevant on these new social and digital platforms?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. And, in terms of, social media, it's probably not something that I'll really talk about too much. It's not really my area. It's more the social team that could probably answer that one for you. And I think, the digital world has made it, kind of really convenient to be able to engage with, whatever content you want. And I think that, it's been a great transition where, there has been the ability to put some first run content onto the platform, with a Mandalorian or a WandaVision or something like that, that is, people can consume from home, but there's still a great cinematic experience as well that they can go and kind of engage with as well. So I think digital media has been really great for all of us, to be honest, in terms of being able to get what we want when we want it and make it work around us. And not waiting, even though that there might be an episode that comes out once per week. At least you can go and watch that episode after it jumps onto the service anytime you like, and you can keep rewatching it. I don't know how many times. My daughter would have watched Frozen, but it is just on regular repeat, to be honest. So it's she's a little older now, so she's probably stopped watching it somewhat. But that's the experience that the digital is working for the audience as well, as much as having a platform where Disney can deliver it to many people, which is terrific.
Amazing, yeah. And are there any other kind of like unexpected side hustles that Disney has taken on that you can share with us?
I mean, not heaps that I probably want to go too much into. I mean, I think the addition of ESPN has been amazing in terms of, it's part of Disney stable, and one that's pretty aligned to my background as well is sport. I think it's probably something that's, you wouldn't quite associate so much with the Disney brand, and also National Geographic. I think that there's so much opportunity and scope with, National Geographic, with what could be done there. And Nat Geo is already, on the Disney Plus, platform. And so you get a much more non-fiction view of the world through that channel. And I think that's amazing to combine that with all the powerful storytelling that's being created across all the other brands, but with some amazing kind of documentaries and kind of, projects that are sort of sitting in there as a nice sort of, added addition to the diversity of the content that sits there.
Yeah, fantastic. There is a lot to Disney and the kind of brands that they own. So it's 100%. Interesting to see how that consistency, continues throughout everything that Disney does. So thank you so much for letting us take a look behind the curtain of Disney branding.
No problem.
Now we'll get back to Hutch in a minute, but first we'll give Ben on the Street a go because it is a really good one. we get just a little bit controversial because we're speaking to a YouTuber who's left the ad industry to pursue content creation and illustration. You might recognize him, so let's take a look.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ben on the Street, where I'll be chatting to Campbell Walker, aka Struthless. He is an artist on social media who has done wall murals. He runs a podcast, an animation studio, a website selling prints and apparel, has just written a book, and has an incredibly modern, humble take on the self-help genre on YouTube. Cam, welcome.
Hey, how are you? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Lovely having you on the show. So you're a busy man, Cam. Can you tell us a short story of how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, okay. So studies. All right, so we'll go from there. So like I was probably in a pretty similar spot to you guys, where I was doing an advertising degree, which God forbid we study something real. And then that led to a bit of a job, but I was a total f***wit at that job. And I ended up kind of like desk flipping and quitting in a very graphic way. And this led to a series of just shitty jobs, which ultimately one day led to a decent advertising job. Then I guess I got that feeling where I felt like I'd explored the career as much as I when you can see the end from the start, and I could also just feel myself aging as my 20s was ticking up, and I'm like, this will turn into my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s death. Okay, got it. And so I started drawing cartoons, and those cartoons started getting a little bit of traction, and I kind of just rode the traction and just pushed a bit of a snowball down a hill, let it grow a bit, and then the cartoons ended up making more money than the advertising. So I got to quit the job and then pursue that. And that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of putting things on the internet, which I guess kind of got me to here. And then most recently, yeah, like you said, I started an animation studio and wrote a book. So now trying to grow the career to be something a little bit more than just being on social media.
So you covered this in one of your YouTube videos where you said that your advertising career taught you that creativity isn't special and it wasn't put on a pedestal. So you learned to be consistently creative. We want to know, how did you do this? Because in my experience, creativity comes in these violent tsunamis, which leave me like a desert for months in between. So is creativity this habit that you've built?
So I'm just going to agree with you first. Like, I do think that, yeah, it does come in waves, and like sometimes those waves are, violent, which is sick. But I think what it's about is being able to be creative in the desert, to continue the analogy. So I think most people can probably harness the tsunami period when you're like, oh my God, it's all coming to me, and usually that's like a week before something's due or 2 days before something's due, in which case it's just adrenaline and energy drinks. But I think the real kind of thing that advertising taught me was, even when you don't have ideas, you are getting paid to have them, so you should have them or you will lose your job. And nothing really motivates like money, I think. Makes you realize that there's always like an extra reserve. You know, like when you go out to dinner and you eat a huge dinner and everyone's like, oh, I'm so full. And then someone's like, dessert? And everyone's like, oh yeah, I could go a little dessert. I think that's what it's like, just having like a spare stomach or a spare spot in your brain that always has ideas. That was a terrible analogy, but yeah, hopefully that answered it.
All right. So another question, Cam, what else did you learn from your time in the advertising industry?
Great question. So much. I mean, definitely, yeah, being able to like be consistently creative. I think that's number one. I also think like corporate politics. Like, I think people underestimate that as a skill, or they like to turn their nose up at it because, I mean, frankly, who wouldn't? It's like pretty gross. But it's one of those necessary things that I think people need to learn, like how to, like really, really basic shit, like how to write an email and how to kind of get what you want, how to close a deal, how to like see something out until the money's actually in your account, not just, die from encouragement. So all of those things I think were really, really helpful. And because advertising is so political and shamelessly profit hungry, you learn them really, really quick. So that would probably be the second one. Let me give you a third example of something else I learned. just how bloated that industry is, I think, as well, and how it's changing and where it's changing to. So I don't know. I guess like that's the cool thing about being alive when we are, is we get to see like gigantic macro shifts.
So in God is Dead, which has been a source of inspiration for our Hungry News, and in your illustrations, you have this witty observational style of comedy where you can pull something funny out of anything. So how and where do you get your inspiration for your ideas? Can we make something extraordinary out of the ordinary?
Hell yeah. Firstly, thank you. That's really, really kind. I think with that one, it's kind of easy because we start with like the most stimulus and then just kind of extrapolate from there. And Bryce is really, really fun to bounce off. He just, you know, he's way more cynical than I think he lets on radio. So like getting him to like his actual like, you know, like him tapping into his edginess just kind of like encourages me. So that's really, really nice. And in terms of turning, I mean, nothing's really ordinary if you break it down. So I think just remembering that, like, it doesn't really matter what it is, like, but everything's mind-blowing if you stare at it long enough.
Oh, that's really good. So, and you mentioned in YouTube, you had a mentor in Mark Shatner. So for the viewers, a famous artist, who said that by doing poetry one day and paintings the next, you were laying a single brick in a million different houses, hoping it would magically become a mansion. So implying you need to stop spreading yourself thin and funnel all your creativity into one field. How do you feel about this advice now, considering you have several successful creative ventures?
I think his advice was super, like, it's still applicable. And I'm still trying to use it. I do, like, I know that I have a tendency to spread myself thin and just, you know, like I'm like a lot of people, I think I'm just like novelty and trying stuff. But I think his advice is really good for anyone at the start. I think once you've got like a little bit of equity, and I'm still light years off getting like true cultural equity, but once you've got enough that you've got a little bit of momentum, I think you can start to dabble, because just making sure that when you do write, you know, like the poem or the song or the sculpture or whatever it is that you do, it's only building one thing. So I feel like I'm still putting his advice to work. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. It's a good question. I should really think about that. I reckon you can max 4, I reckon. Like if I could tweak that advice. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm gonna build the world a house. So everyone gets a brick now.
So thank you, Campbell, for coming on the show and taking time for, you know, getting up this morning to chat to me and Perry. You can find Cam at Struthless69 on Instagram, on YouTube as Struthless, on his website struthless.com, and you can find his book Your Head is Your Houseboat, Your Guide to Mental Clarity, out in September 29. Thank you everyone for coming on. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we're going back to Alana and Bella at the studio. See you there.
So, in our next segment, we put Hutch's Disney knowledge to the test in a game we like to call Whose Line Is It Anyway? And that name's not at all taken from the hit TV show, we swear. So, Hutch, how this will work is we'll read out a questionable quote along with 2 separate and plausible people and contexts. It's up to you to tell us whether it was said by a Disney character or a celebrity. Are you ready?
I'm ready, but I feel like if my boss ever sees this, I'm probably going to lose my job if I don't get any of this right. So I'll have a crack, and you know, just know that I've been with the business for 14 months. So we'll see how we go.
All right, well, let's take a look at our first quote. So we've got, "The beauty of me is that I'm very rich." Who said it? Was it Donald Trump defending himself against tax fraud, or Scrooge McDuck's monologue about his riches?
I'm going to go with Scrooge McDuck.
Okay, let's see if you're right.
Oh, no, it's the Donald.
It was, yeah, Donald Trump.
This is gonna be a disaster for me. I'm not gonna put this one on the CV. I don't think this this fail.
It's all right. Honestly, it could have been. I wouldn't have been surprised either way, to be fair. So our next one is, "What do you want me to do? Dress in drag and do the hula?" Was this Timon's sarcastic suggestion to distract the hyenas, or RuPaul on the Hawaiian special of Drag Race Season 4?
I'll go Timon.
Let's see. You're correct.
Yes, I'm back.
Good job. It was
This is
Timon.
good.
All right. It's up. It's only up from here. Let's take a look at the next one. So the quote is, "You're a sad, strange little man and you have my pity." Was this Buzz Lightyear to Woody when he confronts him about being a toy, or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to Kevin Hart when he hijacked his Instagram live?
I mean, I think that's Toy Story. I'm going to go with Buzz.
Okay, let's take a look at the answer.
It was indeed
Back.
Buzz Lightyear. I think it's
Hell
probably one of my favorite quotes. The way he delivers it, it's so good.
Yeah.
All right, on to our next quote. So we've got, well, I guess I'm going to fade into Bolivian. Now, was this said by Olaf when he was about to meet Melt, or Mike Tyson on his disappointing loss to Lennox Lewis? You should know this one.
I reckon it's going to be Mike, this one. That sounds, I think I remember the quote. So, yeah, let's go with Mike.
Let's see. Yeah.
It was, in fact, Mike Tyson. Good one. Now, on to our next one. Who said, "I can't believe it, I'm losing to a rug"? Was it Hillary Clinton amidst the US election polling in 2016, or Jeannie on playing chess against the magic carpet?
I mean, I think this is Jeannie. I'm hoping I'm right. My partner's her favourite film. So I think, yeah, it's probably from Aladdin, I would think. But let's see.
All right, let's see if you're right. And yes, good job. There you go. You get to keep your job after all, I think.
Oh, that's good. With a bad start, I've come back. I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
All right, on to our final one.
How did everyone go at home playing there? Did they go
how are you guys going?
All right, we've got, who said, "My God, you've gotten fat"? Was it Edna Mode when she reunites with Mr. Incredible, or Prince Philip, may God rest his soul, when seeing Boris Johnson on a recent visit?
I mean, it does sound like something Philip would say, to be honest, but I'll go with, It's a tough one. I'm probably going to get this one wrong. I really can see Philip saying that.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
I'll go with Edna.
Let's take a look at the answer.
Yes.
And it was. All right. Thank God for that. Fantastic job, Hutch. They definitely could have gone either way on any one of those. And you scored a total of 5 out of 6 points. So that's definitely a HD, I think.
Oh, that's good. That's
now,
good. Not a perfect score, but close.
Now, please make sure to put any questions into the chat that you have for Hutch. We do have a fantastic Perry's News episode.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Just tricking, welcome back to Hungry News, where our theme tonight is unconventional advertising. I'm your host, Perry Capnius. Our top stories tonight are brought to you by BNT, Australia's leading publication for advertising and media news. Ad legend Todd Sampson's program Mirror Mirror premiered on 10 last week with 572,000 viewers who tuned in to be confronted with the complexities of idealized beauty and graphic footage of cosmetic surgery. Todd said to BNT that he believes body dissatisfaction is a global societal crisis that we all face. Young, old, male, female, transgender, non-binary. The show featured the irony of people wanting to look bigger, smaller, darker, or paler. He points to the crucial role the advertising industry has played in determining what's beautiful. He said, "I don't blame advertising for what we face. I don't blame social media for what we face as a society. In many ways, you can blame capitalism." The show's dire message was that ultimately, our desire to achieve visual perfection is just human nature. He encouraged advertisers to change our perceptions of ideal beauty because those are the people that will make a difference, and you could argue they're the only real people that can. Part of the solution was to feature more diverse people in media. One of the most diverse dating websites around perhaps has the largest proportion of beautiful people, since it was revealed that many of the users are not even real at all. Ashley Madison, a dating website for those looking for affairs, was hacked in 2015, leaking the names of 30 million users. Of the user database at the time, approximately 31 million users were men and 5 million users were women. The hackers asserted that 90 to 95% of all the female profiles were fake. Six years after the cyber attack, they've since gained over 150,000 new users a month and have been working on a cute little rebrand, seemingly aimed at attracting women to the site, shouting about the importance of pleasure and self-esteem gained from having an affair. Their Instagram, with all of its 3,000 followers willing to reveal their identity publicly, features a millennial pink layout, 2012 style impact font, blurry Venn diagrams, and memes from children's shows. I can't help but think their social media manager has experience with cheating and lying, but most likely with what they put on their resume. The company's chief strategy officer, Paul Keeble, discussed the idea behind the brand with Forbes, saying that infidelity is condemned across the globe, across religions, across socioeconomic levels, yet people still do it, and it's even easier with online dating. Research from Global Web Index found that in 2015, 42% of Tinder's users were married or in a relationship. He said other brands were deceptive with their messaging, but we tell you the truth. We're the brand that's going to help you facilitate a discreet affair. You can read more about these stories on bnt.com.au. This week's bad ads are also naughty. Get ready for your Ashley Madison affair date by heading to the appropriately named Dick Smith for this soap, or what I thought Dick Smith sold, a new computer for when your wife confiscates yours as evidence for the divorce. This clinical trials website offers something remarkably similar to Ashley Madison with its cute pink Instagram theme. And there are too many fingers, tongues, or indistinguishable organs placed inappropriately in nonsense ads. A language app, a sleeping app, an aquarium, and even dominoes. That's all for tonight.
So for now, we do have a couple of questions taken from the YouTube when it was up. So this one's one that comes from Evelyn off our YouTube comments. Hutch, how do you strike a balance between making something that is ultimately for profit and something that can have a genuine message behind it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? And I think that it should come back down to the connection that you actually are trying to create. So I think that, I think that most things in this world, a lot of these things, unless it's pure art, are for profit, and even pure art is for profit too. So I think it's just trying to think about who the audience is and creating a connection with that audience. So I think that's the number one thing you should start with, creating a message that doesn't just feel like a sell. It's actually about connecting with who it is that we're trying to connect with. And for someone to receive it, to kind of have some feeling about it, a laugh, a cry, that sort of thing. Actually, when you think about what that bit of content is trying to do, you want people to engage with it in some way, and in an authentic way as much as possible. And I think that's the number one way I sort of come at all the jobs that would come through to us as a brief. It's not just purely brand slap or I really like the color red. It's actually having a reason behind everything that you do, and that sort of feels like if you can make that connection. I know we're here to kind of generate dollars and kind of get subscribers or whatever, but it's actually about making some connection with that hopefully people get something out of, and hopefully even it converts them to go and watch the content that they get even more out of.
Yeah, it's a good point. Definitely something to think about, when we do go into something like advertising as well. Audrey asks, do you think we need to have a lot of industry experience before entering a big company such as Disney?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think that there's different levels for different kind of organizations. For Disney itself, I think that you can come in at the ground level. I mean, we don't have any graduates in our team at the moment. Juniors and things like that is something we've talked a lot about. I mean, I don't think you need heaps of experience. I just think you need to be able to prove yourself that you're right for that role. I think that's the most important thing, is being able to be confident that you can deliver exactly what the role is calling for. It might mean that you have to start somewhere else to begin with. Maybe it's not straight out of university, but it's probably showing that you've got some runs on the board, but being able to really articulate exactly why you would be right to kind of, be joining the team. And, I don't underestimate the projects you're doing at university. And, there's so much that as a potential kind of, person that would be looking at folios and things like that, you get a lot from seeing what people can do with, with student work. And, some of the real jobs that you're having as a, part of what RMIT do so well is they connect in with real, kind of companies to create real, kind of solutions that people can sort of see the runs on the board from them. They're not, a lot of it's not fictitious sort of stuff in terms of the brief. So I think it's great to be able to see some of that and how you've been able to handle those briefs. And then getting some experience, I think is, it's great to be able to see that you can work in a team or an organization. And I like seeing that. But I mean, I wouldn't feel like you should be feeling that you're discounted because you don't have, 5, 6, 7 years experience.
Okay. And this kind of links with that question. How would you go about seeking out an opportunity to work at Disney? Is it the good old classic LinkedIn message, or is there a particular magical way that we can try to weave our way in? This question comes from Christine.
Well, I mean, I think, Christine, for me, I would say, if you can put yourself out there in terms of, showing who you are and how much you want to be working for the organization, your connection back to, even your history of, the love of characters and the love of the brands. I do see a lot of that in people that are applying for work. And it's really great to see the passion that people bring, to potentially working for the organization I'm working for now. I love seeing that. I love seeing people being authentic and, really carving out their cover letter or their CV accordingly. If there's something you can do to somewhat stand out from the crowd, with part of exactly, with your application, I think that's really, a good way to do that. Stalking through LinkedIn's okay. It's I'm always about trying to encourage people as much as possible and, supporting people to get where they want to be. I think that's something that I like to nurture as much as I possibly can, in the time that I've got. But, even when the job comes up, really putting your best foot forward to make sure that you're looking to tick all those boxes of the, whatever the job profile or PD or job ad says, but also putting yourself in there, because it's really, when you've got someone coming through the door, it's about, bringing someone in for all their experiences and ideas, but also working with them. You want to have someone that's great to work with, that you can collaborate with. And from, all the lines of, hopefully in my department, everyone feels like they're a collaborator and they, can put their opinion forward and kind of work on a job to get the best outcome. So I think that's part of it when you are trying to get your foot in the door for Disney. And there's so many channels and avenues that you can get into the Walt Disney Company, totally different roles. But, working for an organization that has such diversity and such good opportunities, I think has been something that I've really loved. And I would recommend it if you can get your foot in the door. I think that it's a great place to work.
Thank you for that. And speaking on kind of getting your foot in the door, how did you transition from being a fresh graduate into an art director? Like, what kind of skills did you need to acquire from that role, again, from Christine?
I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting one going from any role. I think that, you have to back yourself in. You need to think that you can do it. Like, even if you feel like maybe I'm only, a certain percentage on that skill, it's just like owning it and saying, I can get better at doing this. I've got some sort of skill here to sort of start this, but I know I'll be able to grow in there, and being as confident as you possibly can to, make the people that you're kind of interviewing with be reassured that you can do it for them. I think that's really important. My role going in as an art director straight after university was, I mean, I think I got a bit lucky, to be honest, but I think just showing that I'm passionate. I can, the examples of work sitting in my folio back then. I didn't have a website then. I probably didn't have too many websites going out in terms of folios back then. But, having some great examples in your reel or in your folio or in your website that kind of shows people you can do it and you can do this particular role, maybe even kind of slightly changing things up to make sure that it's applicable specifically to that job. I think that's really important too. And maybe that's sort of how I was able to sort of get in there and get that first role. But, as I said before, just being confident and comfortable that the people that are interviewing you feel that you can do it for them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hutch.
That's great. You can probably see a couple of, I've got some figures behind me as well. I've got, can you see those? You can see Mickey and Minnie in the background with Pluto. So that was something that, my partner gave. She basically put that up there when I was applying for the job at the Walt Disney Company as a good luck charm. So I've kept them there. So I know all about these little kind of Disney things and heirlooms.
Yeah, I got a Minnie Mouse here and one on my bed, and they've got Mickey ears somewhere else. But yeah, I've always kind of loved the whole Disney brand. But it does bring us to the end of another brilliant episode. Few technical difficulties, but still brilliant. First of all, Hutch, we'd love to give a big thank you to you. Thank you for your patience and your time and just taking everything out of your busy schedule to join us and stick around with us and tell us about your incredible career path and what it's like working as the head of creative and production at Walt Disney. I think you've definitely inspired quite a few of us to take a look at Disney's hiring page now for sure. But thank you again, greatly appreciated. Before you go, we would love to know, how did you find tonight's episode?
I thought it was great. We obviously had a little bit of a break in comms, but that's all good. But I think you guys did so well at pulling it back into kind of, on a different platform to get it back on track. So I've loved it. I've really appreciated catching up with you guys, but even just, being able to share what I kind of have learnt so far, and, more than happy if anyone wants to reach out to me to kind of answer any other sort of further questions. And I'm seeing a couple of things in the chat here from people. And I think it's just great to be able to, give a little bit back in terms of, I know what it's like when I was at university. I didn't have anything like this. I had no idea what I was, in for. And any time that we ever sort of had any guest lecturer or things like that come in, it was always really inspiring. So hopefully they might have given me 100% inspiration. Hopefully I've given you a little bit, maybe it was 5%, but at least a bit to kind of, understand that there's some great career pathways and they don't always have to be, coming out and working purely as a director in an agency. Like there's different pathways that you can take, and my pathway has been, my pathway, and yours will be yours. And, you'll get to experience a lot of different things, and you'll know quickly what you do want, but, I think you'll also work out quickly what you don't want. So I think any experience that you have, I think is beneficial because it steers you closer to, getting where you want to be. And I've kind of found that and felt that. I've been relatively lucky in terms of some of the choices that I've made, but I think any choice that you make will end up, being beneficial in the long run, and you'll learn so much from that. So, I think that's something that hopefully people take a little bit of that in terms of, what I've been able to say. And, as I said, if you want to reach out at any stage, I'm happy to, share back any other thoughts that I've got, but I've probably waffled on a lot so far. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. We might have a couple of questions we might shoot through as an email from some of the students. But yeah, thank you again. You've definitely inspired quite a few of us here tonight, and we hope to see you around. So stay safe and take care. Students, we hope you guys have also enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week for our super exciting game night episode. We will let you know that this episode is going to be pre-recorded, so it'll be premiering on the Thursday the 30th instead of our usual Wednesday. We don't want to give too much away, but with some big name guests and hilarious games, I'm sure it's going to be an episode not to be missed. But for now, I'm Bella.
And I'm Alana, and this has been Hungry Talks. Cheers, and we hope you have a groovy night.